I've been trading crypto. I've been trying to get more every time it dips low. I've been trading crypto. I've been trying to get more every time it dips low.
Welcome to the ChainLeak podcast. I'm your host, Joshua Roomsberg. Today's episode is about the First Web3 Search Engine with Presearch CEO Tim Enneking. Welcome to the show, brother.
Hey, Joshua. Thanks very much for having me on.
Yeah, for sure. So we were talking about it, and last week I downloaded your application and I was looking at Presearch versus standard search results. And I found something unique in the results that were kicked back to me between the two platforms. I'm speaking of Google versus Presearch. Let's go into that a little bit and what the overall concept of Presearch is versus what Google has developed.
Well, first, why don't you tell me, what did you find when you were comparing them? What did you come across?
Yeah, so there was something specific I was researching for. I was trying to find more information, and the results it gave me on Google, it felt like they were filtered. It didn't give me the more in-depth search I was looking for. I was looking for, I want to say it was something about Twitter and the new algorithm. And I was looking for data sets that I could compare and contrast with my recent posts on the platform to see how the analytics were limiting my posts versus other creators on the platform. And everything I was finding on Google, it was limited to only the most highly credible websites, if you would. It felt like the big news sources, it would have to be on something like the New York Post or something similar to that. Whereas when I used Presearch, it was showing me results from different platforms and different forums where individuals would be speaking about their experiences and the different things they tweaked about their content that helped them expand their reach. And when you're looking for that kind of information, it isn't always helpful when you're getting results from Fortune 500 companies and they're kicking you back what they want you to know versus the end user's experience. So I thought Presearch was helpful in that aspect. And I need you to go into that a little bit in how do the search results differ between the two platforms?
It's interesting. I wouldn't lead with this, but just to cover what you were talking about, one of the things that large outlets, media outlets are worried about is they want to be as accurate as they can, et cetera. But they're also worried about getting sued. And that has a really discouraging effect to listing some things that have not been 100% verified all the time. And when you think about it, you can say, well, I want all my news to be 100% verified all the time. But in reality, we don't, because it's really, really hard to achieve that level. And so you don't find a lot of news outlets that, let's say, can take risks in terms of going down to the likelihood of a story being true. And when we hear about a story not being true, it's generally because somebody sued them, right? So it's because they're a public media outlet, they're really discouraged from taking that sort of risk. If you use a search engine like Google, you face a lot of interesting similar risks. First of all, information is filtered because, again, they're subject to government regulation and attract a lot of attention. It's not, I won't say it's censored, but they also want to try to avoid controversy. So that means a lot of other stories get in. Lastly, a lot of the search results are sponsored. So sometimes it'll be 2 or 3 or 4 search results, but sometimes it'll be an entire page and on the one hand, they want you to look at the ads and the search results, but on the other hand, they don't want you to necessarily realize that it's a sponsored ad. That kind of defeats the whole purpose, right? And so sometimes
Right.
it's
Yep.
actually difficult to figure out where the sponsored stuff ends and the real stuff begins.
Yep.
And there are reasons for all of that, right? The people that running Google and running big search engines, they're not stupid, but they actually they're very, very risk averse. And so our approach is very different. I've taken more and more to calling it, we let the information speak for itself. So the first thing we get funded by ads too, but our first search results, the initial search results, are not sponsored. They're completely the natural search results that emerge from your search. We apply no filters. We apply no spin, no censoring, no anything. Again, we let the information speak. And for the first 6 years of its existence, 7 years actually, Presearch, there's a different management team. My management team and I, we took over almost exactly 2 years ago. They didn't have their own search engine, so it was a meta search engine. And so if you do a search, sometimes it'd be different because we have like a massive global VPN, 30,000 nodes. So it's not you making the same search from your IP address all the time. It's going all over the world. So you don't get profiled. And so often the search results were different, but not all that often. Now, in fact, last week we integrated all of our search results into the other search results you see on the platform, and we haven't indexed the whole web yet. We're still working on that. But when you hit one of the verticals that we have indexed, more and more we have people saying exactly what you did. Hey, I was looking for an answer. I was doing something particularly more in-depth research, not the really superficial stuff, but even in those cases sometimes. And I couldn't find anything on Google, or on Google it was like, page 8. I had to dig and I spent lots of time.
Right. Yeah.
I did the one search on Presearch and boom, I got a better result. It's not going to happen all the time, but it's happening more and more often as we index more of the web, because we don't have sponsored ads at all. We have no cookies. We have no HTML code. We don't know who you are. We don't want to know who you are. It's everything completely anonymously. And it was so difficult to find advertisers that would accept ads, doing ads without all of this tracking crap, that we actually invented our own sort of ad. It's a background ad behind all the search results. So it doesn't get in your face. It's just, if you want to look at it, you can. And we control it. It's just a GIF or a JPEG. So it's a very, very simple file. No tracking at all. It's just beautiful. It's clean. And to the extent that some people say, hey, we search engines like DuckDuckGo say we don't sell your information. But the fact of the matter is they have the information. So a hacker, law enforcement, and regulators can all get a hold of your information. We've had a number of requests under the EU, because we're global as well, under the EU privacy law. And we're a user of Presearch that said, okay, here's my name, here's the country I live in, here's the information so you can identify me. Please tell me all of the information you have on me. And our response was basically, hey, until you told us all the information in this email, we had no information. We have literally nothing to add to your email. And frankly, we're not even going to store this information. We keep everyone totally anonymous. It's not that we keep them anonymous. We don't have the information. So if law enforcement were to come to us, we would show them whatever they get a court order to get, and the answer would be nothing. We have no data to give. We are the ultimates in privacy. And because we have this VPN, essentially a VPN, it's actually a node network because all the searches go through different nodes. So you do a search today, it'll go through Venezuela. A search in 20 minutes, it'll go through Singapore. After that, it'll go through Germany. You can't be profiled.
I even noticed that on my phones. Both of my phones, I want to say once every 3 months, I have to delete all the trackers and all the Google information that, okay, what apps have you downloaded and all this bullshit. 90% of the world isn't going to do that. One, they probably don't even know how, but
Right.
two, they don't understand that every aspect of your mobile device is tracked like that too, not just your search engine. And that's pretty wild to think about.
Well, Joshua, I hate to give you bad news, but even when you take it off of your phone, you've really just taken it away from yourself, right? Because that information is stored in at least 3 other places, right? But if the information is never collected, it's a whole different ballgame.
Now that's another thing, like with Facebook. Facebook was a big one. I deleted my Facebook account like 10 years ago. I couldn't deal with how intrusive they were and the information they would collect. But yeah, you have these other big tech companies that are doing the same thing, even with Google. So I get what you're saying for sure. But inside your Google account, they do have, once you get deep into your Google account, there's ways to delete your search history. Now, maybe within the Google servers, they might have it somewhere, but you can delete it to where if a hacker gets into your account, they're not going to find that information. That was the thing I've experienced
if a hacker
personally.
gets into your account, the odds of them looking at your old searches are pretty long. They get into your account, they're going to be looking for something juicier than that, right?
Right. Well, the thing I was thinking about is I've been hacked like 3 times in the last 10 years. And each time it's a different way that they perceive the information or get it to me to where, okay, yeah, download this file. It's a contract. Let's close the deal.
Right.
And then I sign the contract and then everything on my computer is hacked.
Right.
That's happened twice. And it was until I found out, okay, I'm never downloading another contract for somebody I just met again. That was wild.
You know, it's really funny you mention that, because now even when I get like a DocuSign from somebody I know, I confirm
What the hell is
with
this?
them at least twice, 2 different ways in advance that they sent that and they want me to sign it. It's really sad, but we have no choice.
Yeah, it's wild. But so that was the situation I was thinking about. Is one time I was hacked real bad. These people took over like 4 or 5 of my Gmail accounts, both of my social medias, and they were inside everything. And I was so fast that I'm a tech guy, so I understood what I needed to change right away and get them out of different stuff. But if I wouldn't have been by a computer at that time, they would have already owned everything of my persona. And it's wild to think that's how they get most other people. If they get in your account and you don't know how to get that account back within the first hour, you're done.
Right.
They have everything that was inside that account. So with me deleting my Google history, I'm talking more so the different apps I have connected. If there's an app I haven't used in 3 or 4 months, I'm removing that approval to where they can log into that app with my Gmail, and they wouldn't know I've ever synced it to before. They could try it, but it would be less likely in that first hour for them to say, oh, let me try this account.
Yep.
So linked accounts to my Gmail, different search history, different documents, tax documents, all those important things I try to clear out once every 3 months now, just to be safe, because you never know when somebody's going to try and get you. It's crazy now.
Well, especially with AI, because like anything that humanity gets its hands on, it's used for good and for evil. And I've gotten I've seen some amazing threads that I supposedly wrote with colleagues of mine going back months that are just recreated out of whole cloth. I mean, fabricated out of whole cloth. And I'm amazed at how good this is. And of course, it's AI sitting down and generating that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's wild. So to get back on the search and pre-search versus what Google's put together with their search engine, what would you say are the top 3 differentiating factors between the two search engines?
The first one is better search results because they're not filtered, they're not profile. The second one would be greater privacy or fantastic privacy because you're not tracked at all. And the third one would be much better security. If you've been reading, you've seen that, different search engines and different mega caps have had over the last month, they've had a couple of different outages. And that's a function of having centralized software, centralized system where one thing goes down. We've got tens of thousands of nodes around the globe, and we've had the US go down. We've had Europe go down. We've had Asia go down. And nothing went, the system continued to function because a decentralized system is much more robust than, a decentralized system is much more robust than a centralized system. And we've seen numerous examples where our system has survived while others, bigger, better, much better known systems have not. So those are the three things I would say. But the first one's the most important, higher quality search results, because we're a search engine. That's what counts.
That ties back into how we started this interview today, was about the quality of the search results and the depth. I think that was the most important thing that I noticed. The difference was the depth. It wasn't limited to the big media outlets putting something in your face. You had real results that people like me and you would write on a blog somewhere, and it may be more credible information than what's on these media outlets. And most people don't understand that for real. They look at what you see in the media has to be trusted 100%, and there's no other way about it. And over the last 5 to 10 years, I've learned personally that you have to do your own research. You can't rely on one source of information.
Oh, absolutely. And we provide both. And, sometimes the big media outlets provide great information. They've got bureaus all over the world. They've got capabilities that very few other organizations have. But because there are so many men on the street now that have cell phones, their information, while important, is less unique than it used to be. And so, yes, we provide that because they're still important sources of information, but they're not the only sources of information. And what we provide is a real range, a real smorgasbord, if you will, of information. And then it allows you do your own research, or as we like to say, do your own pre-search.
Okay.
We allow people to do that easily. It's not that you get all of the scrubbed information first, and you have to go to page 17 to figure out where there's some information that somebody somewhere, Google's algorithm, considers to be less credible for some reason. In our case, we take the information from a variety of sources and present it. And we have our own indication of which is the most, which fits the search better, right? And that's the information we provide. For credibility of the information, who are we to judge? We don't judge that. We let you judge that. But if you're looking for something and there's an obscure source that really matches your search, really fits your search, I can say that, then it will be the number one search result. Whether it be from the New York Times or whether it be the Uganda Journal, if it fits what you're looking for, that will be the first results. So we list by fit to the search versus large outlets to small outlets or paid ads to unpaid ads. And I really don't want to dump on the other search engines and on some of these large media outlets. They both have roles to play, but there are a lot of things they miss, and there are a lot of other roles out there. I don't have an objection to somebody, a search engine being big or a mega cap being big, but I do have an objection when they start to become monopolistic. And that is really why you need alternatives. And Presearch, especially now with our prop search engine, it's exceeding everybody's expectations. We're really, really happy with it.
That was the main thing that I noticed in my specific research using Presearch was the specific keywords. I'm big on the metadata and knowing how to search things a certain way and tweaking keywords to where I get better results. But even with that, the results I got from Google were still limited based on whatever factors they felt and credibility. But when it came to Presearch, I felt like it was more so based on the keywords that I used in my search. So within that first 5 results, there was a Reddit post that used the exact search terms that I searched, and bam, that was the most credible information for what I was trying to find.
Right.
And it was because they used those exact keywords.
Right.
Normal people ain't going to search that in depth, but I thought that was really cool that instead of giving me something that was around the topic, they gave me exactly what I was looking for, and I appreciate that.
There you go. And like I say, we let the information speak for itself, and it's less homogenized, it's less pre-processed, right? It's just the straight up information, and it's not filtered, it's not spun, it's not, censored or anything else. And not saying that all other information is every place, but you need something like Presearch. Everyone needs something like Presearch because we don't alter the information for any agenda that is inconsistent, right? It's a very, very simple business paradigm. We put the ads behind and we let the information speak, and that's it.
That's awesome. Now, to go more in depth of your journey into blockchain and then now into Presearch, you're the CEO of Presearch. Have you always been on the development team of Presearch since launch?
No, that's a really good question. It's actually quite recently we took over. It's kind of a sad story in reality. The original team that took over and launched the project during the halcyon ICO days of 2017, as I like to describe it without dumping on anybody, they managed to cram 2 years of development into 6 years. And they ran out of money. They did very little. They did some stuff. I don't mean to say they did nothing. They did some stuff. It wasn't nearly as much as they should have. When we took over, we spent basically the first year and change fixing all the problems.
Okay.
And then we did a WeFunder campaign. So we did a Reg CF, or regulation crowdfunding. Raised a couple $100,000, and we were going to apply that money to finalize the design for our prop search engine. Instead, we used that money to build the prop search engine. So we closed that round in June. We're about 8 months ahead of schedule from where we thought we'd be 6 months ago. So like I said, we just recently launched. We had a beta tested for a while. Now we've included our results in all of Presearch results, which is why I think it's so fabulous that you tested this and already saw the difference, because it can be dramatic. It's not dramatic in all cases. But then now after we solved the problems, like I say, it took historical problems, took about 1.5 years. Now we're building, and we really, really are blowing this up because there are major token changes coming along. We're earning about 50% of our expenses through ads. We want to grow that. We're really trying to blow up number of searches. So please, those out there, those of you who are interested in any of this, check out presearch.com. And the easy thing to download, or actually there's nothing to download if you're using a browser. Just make it your default search engine. Very simple to do. Anyway, the project now is really taking off. I describe it to people, it's like a construction site. When we took over, there was this big hole in the ground. And then for the first 1.5 years, as you walk by the construction site, you don't see any change, right? Because they're just filling in. And one day you walk by and there's one story. The next day you walk by, there are 3 stories. We're now in the 1-story, 3-story, 10-story stage. We want to scale this thing in terms of number of users. The revenue will come along with that, but that will allow us to crawl the entire internet, 20 billion pages, much, much more quickly than we can today. And now we're doing hundreds of thousands of pages a day. And as big as that sounds, it's not enough.
What do you feel is the biggest difference between Web 2 and Web 3, both as in, I'll run it back. I was going to say an organization, but I don't think I should word it like that. What do you think is the biggest difference between Web 2 and Web 3 overall?
Well, it's kind of interesting because the terms get sort of abused, but I think the easiest way to summarize it is Web 2 is centralized. Web 3 is decentralized. One of the implications of that is if you're in the digital asset space, Web 2, your tokens are held by the project. Web 3, they're held in your wallet. But also in terms of information and control and a lot of other things, Web 3 is more peer-to-peer. That's not absolute because that's governed by a centralized entity as well. But it's generally different aspects of it, but it's generally centralized Web 2 versus decentralized Web 3. I think that's probably the easiest, best way to explain it from a high level.
Okay. Now, going deeper onto that, for a search engine, what is the overall concept of having a Web 3 search engine versus a traditional Web 2? The decentralized aspect alone, or is there more to it?
The decentralized aspect is, I guess you could say it's almost alone, but it has a number of implications, right? Because if you're in the digital asset space, you run all these nodes that I just described to you, these tens of thousands of nodes around the world, they're run by individuals, right? Like you and me, there's a tiny piece of software you can download, or some people do a VPS, a virtual private server, and run it that way, but they're all run by individuals. And as a result of that, we have this massive network, but also people actually get paid a small amount to search. But if you run a search node and stake, or if you just stake to search, you can actually earn a non-trivial amount of money by searching. So in other words, you control your fate. You get paid for your actions. Because think what happens in like Google or Yahoo or anything else. You do your search, and you're looking at ads. Who gets all the money? Google or Yahoo?
Google does every time. Yeah.
Right? So with us, if you're searching, you get a very, very small number of pre. It's very tiny. Unfortunately, there was too much abuse, so we had to make it really, really small. But if you stake pre, then you could actually earn significant amounts of pre by searching. And that way, if you violate the terms, you have something at risk because you can, in theory, lose the pre that you staked. Although I think we've confiscated them in one case where a guy was just insanely abusive. So, and that's another big implication of centralized versus decentralized, because we don't run the decentralized network. The people who search, the people who use Presearch, you guys, the community, you're the ones who run Presearch. We organize it a little bit in the center, and we're trying to decentralize as much as we can, but it's really run by the community. And that just is a very different attitude, a very different approach, a very different paradigm, if you will, of how to build a business.
Yeah, that's wild to think about when you talk about the nodes on the network. When you think of the individuals running a node versus the data centers for Google. And Google is a centralized entity, so they may have warehouses that are huge data centers that run the nodes for the Google search engine. For Presearch, it's individuals that run, in a sense, individual data centers that control the network. Is that the way to look at it?
In part, they control all of the hardware, but the individuals who run the nodes have nothing to do with the searches. So you don't want that. You don't want individuals to be able to affect somebody else's search.
No, I get that. I'm saying for the network itself, when you run a node, you don't store any data on your devices?
No search data. That's correct. You store none.
So what data is stored on your individual devices then?
Aside from downloading the program, nothing. We don't even store searches. Searches are not stored anywhere.
That's wild to think about. So now we're getting into a whole nother aspect. Man, this is crazy. Now for the individual nodes, what is the benefit for the network itself then? Because I came into this.
Simple. The search is pitched out to a given node. That node, because we're a meta search engine, you can access 130 different search engines through Presearch. So you pick whatever search engine on your computer, it'll default to one of the big ones, and you pick if you want a different one. Then you do your search. That search doesn't go from your computer, and let's assume it doesn't hit the Presearch proprietary search engine. It goes, let's say it's going to Google. It doesn't go to Google directly from your computer. It goes to this other node, which might be in Bolivia. And then you do your next search, your follow-up search, same search. That one will go through Taiwan. And then you do another one. It goes through some guy's node in Scotland. And then it hits the server someplace. And the results come back the same way. But every search goes through a completely different path. And your searches are not stored, well, I guess temporarily you can say, okay, they're there until the search result come in. But then it's done. It's gone. That's one of the.
Well, that's what I was getting at is.
Profile. What's that?
That's what I was trying to get at since I'm in Detroit, and if I run a node for Presearch out of Detroit, would I need specific device requirements? A terabyte of data, 2 terabytes of data, certain RAM.
Yeah. There are some hardware requirements because there's a Docker instance that will be installed, but they're for the current nodes, they're very, very low. It's like half a gig. I mean, it's really, really tiny. For our own search engine, we're launching more sophisticated nodes now, crawler nodes and index nodes. They have a range of requirements. We make it very clear what they are. And next week on Tuesday, we're auctioning off these, what we call specialty nodes. We're auctioning off an NFT, which gives you a right to run a specialty node. And so you'll buy the NFT, which you can resell later. It's not an expense, it's an investment. And then you stake on the node, and then you run a node and earn. And the way, if you've got a really powerful computer, we have one here that our project manager just told me he's running 20 different nodes on a single computer. It's a powerful computer. Wow. He's not doing anything else, but every one of those nodes is earning. And so you'll have to buy the NFT, but you can resell that right later, and you have to stake the tokens, but you can resell the tokens later too. So the only expense you have, literally, which is an expense, right? Money that's paid out, you don't get back, is for electricity if that computer is not turned on. Otherwise, they're free to run and you just earn.
Okay. Now, I guess the biggest thing I was coming into this conversation thinking is for an individual node, when you think of other networks in the blockchain industry, you have to store the block data, or you have to store the storage information and it's sharded between nodes. you guys don't do any sharding or any data holding for individual nodes? I'm trying to understand. I'm still lost on that
you
part.
you need to download the program to run the node.
Yep.
But look, we could do what you're talking about. We'll take this search came from this ISP address and it went here and they were searching for this, and we'll write that all to somebody's blockchain, right? We could do all of that. But instead, we don't store that data. That's the beauty of it. We don't know who is searching, and we don't know what they're searching for. So it is it's the most anonymous, secure, safe way of searching that we know of on the planet Earth.
Killed me. Okay, so what does
This is funny.
the blockchain?
Joshua, you are so used to data being stored and collected, you can't believe that we don't do it. This is actually funny to watch, but we don't.
Yeah, no, this is blowing my mind for real. This is crazy. So, how does the blockchain infrastructure tie into the pre-search nodes if nothing is stored? I guess I'm trying to understand that part.
No. Keep in mind, it's not that nothing is stored. It's that nothing is stored regarding each search. If you stake and you do Web3 staking, it's self-custodial staking. So you stake 10,000 they're still in your wallet, but they're designated as being staking or as being staked. And then your node, if you're running a node, you will earn. That is all on the blockchain. All of that is. So how the mechanics of things, of the back office, if you will, that is on the blockchain. And maybe that's what you're trying to get at. But how it's used, that is not on the blockchain or not anywhere, because we don't store it.
Okay, now I guess, this is perfect. When a search comes through my server, isn't there data associated with that search? Wouldn't that come through my device and then go back somewhere else?
What do you mean
even
by
if it's
data
temporarily
associated with the search?
The search itself.
Yes.
Isn't there any data associated with that search that would come to my device?
Sure, there'll be the initiating IP address and some other stuff. It comes through. The search is launched by your server. The data comes back. The results come back, and nothing of that is stored except a little bit of metadata. We know your machine did a search, because the more searches your machine does, the more you get paid as a result of having that machine.
That's what I was trying to get at. Okay, so it's not necessarily larger performing devices determining how well you do within the network.
Well, you'll get a little bit more, but the BlackBerry Pi, the tiny little computer.
Yep.
You can run a basic search node on a BlackBerry Pi.
Raspberry Pi, or there's a BlackBerry Pi now?
Raspberry Pi. I'm confusing.
Kill me. I was all right.
Yeah,
no, you're good. Okay, so it's a BlackBerry Pi. I was like, damn, I missed something. What did I say? Oh my goodness.
I love the BlackBerry when they had it, but now it's just a software company.
Right. Okay, so that's what I was trying to get at. So for individual nodes, let's think of a concept where an individual node is processing 50,000 or 100,000 searches per day.
Never happened.
It will never happen, or it hasn't happened.
Never happened. We get, as you start to push the number of searches per day anywhere near the limits of a node, we'll auction off more NFTs and have more nodes. Our goal is not to crash the computer. Our goal is to have as many nodes as we need, keep a little bit of scarcity value here, because we want the value of the NFTs, which represent a right to run a node. We want that to increase, and we want the value of the token to increase. So we built this entire system now to be deflationary, not inflationary, So there's no way just with the hardware, a given node could run 50,000 searches in a day. Might be able to run 1,000 searches in a day, but not much more than that. I'd have to ask my CTO. I've never thought about this, what the max theoretical number would be, but it's nowhere near what you were just mentioning. And that's good, because the idea isn't to slow the computer down so it's not usable for anything else. You just run a little Docker instance and you're going about your business, but you're just, earning tokens at the same time, making money.
Well, that's the thing I'm thinking about, is back to the hardware requirements. I'm wired for other networks in the blockchain industry and the way they operate their nodes. And I always come back to that theory of you need better hardware to run better nodes within a specific network. So for Presearch, you're saying
we have sort of two generations here. The current nodes are search nodes only, because it's not our search engine. Very simple, very small, very low hardware requirements. That's until 2 months ago, 3 months ago, that's all there was. With our prop search engine, we actually have 7 different kinds of nodes. So we have crawling nodes. We need lots of crawling nodes because we want to crawl as much as the internet as possible. Then we have index nodes. You have controller nodes. We have other nodes, what we call seeker nodes now, which are just the nodes that actually run the searches. Each of those have their own technical specifications. So
now we're getting somewhere. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
But as of today, there's none of that. They're just, except beta testing, there are just the simplest configuration. And that's what we'll need a lot of. But the ones that we need most of, which is a slightly more complex, slightly more robust configuration, are crawler nodes. We need thousands, tens of thousands of those.
Now, with the crawler nodes, would you need more data, better hardware for the crawler nodes? I feel like them would have a lot more information and data being transferred daily.
Well, the crawler nodes just crawl, so it's mostly one-way data. But and so they need to be a little bit more robust than the search nodes or seeker nodes, but not a lot. But let me bring up one other distinction, because Presearch is really the world's first post-AI search engine. Because if you look at every other search engine out there, they had to crawl the web before AI. And they had to, copy every word, everything that they could find. And then now with AI, you vectorize a search. And so you have to match the vector to the raw data, which works. You can do it, but it's very clumsy, takes a lot of hardware, and takes a fair amount of time. We're not indexing the web that way. We're vectorizing every page. We're not collecting the raw data. We're just collecting the vectors. So when you do a search that's vectorized, we're matching vector to vector. You said earlier that when you were using Presearch, you had a much better match, and you didn't notice there was a long delay. The reason is we're doing a vector to vector match. Nobody else is doing that. Again, Presearch is the world's first post-AI search engine. We're taking an approach that literally was impossible even a year ago. Our CTO has a wonderful phrase. He said, if Google was built today, if it were being designed right now, they would design it the way Presearch is built. They would not design it the way they built it 25 years ago. And that's hardly a surprise, right?
That's wild to think about, because Google's one of the top 500 companies in the world. So that's mind-blowing in itself.
Well, but the other thing to think about Google is that because they have not really, they're trying to embrace AI, but right now their market share is going down, and the overall search market is shrinking because people are going to AI.
Are searching on AI, yep.
Exactly. So what we have done is we have our own, what we call it pre-GPT, but we're very, very democratic about this. We let people pick from 12 different LLMs. So if you don't like your result on this LLM, you can pick another one. And when you were doing your searching, you saw the generative AI results when you did your search on Presearch. And it's the same thing, but we've lowered the guardrails. We let the information speak for itself, and we don't spin it. All the things we were talking about earlier. So even if you're using the same generative AI engine, you'll get better results on Presearch than you were using it through another avenue, Google or whatever, because they have their filters. They add their spin. We reduce that to the absolute minimum, both on the generative AI side and on the straight search side.
What do you think is the biggest opportunity for the intersection of AI and search results in the future? How will Presearch integrate AI moving forward?
We've already done it. We've done it from the very beginning. In fact, when OpenAI announced ChatGPT, we actually had AI results on our search engine. This is the prior management that did it. They did this great. They had it in November of 22, 4 or 5 months before anybody else had it, but they didn't tell anybody. And it's like, come on, you guys are nuts. So Presearch has always been in the forefront of AI and search. And in the future, you're asking the question, right? AI or search, like positioning them in opposites to one another. What you're going to have, though, is a perfect blend of them. 2 years from now, people aren't going to be talking about AI and search. There's not going to be a distinction. We've built Presearch, so there already isn't a distinction. We've melded them together.
It's the AI search. Is that what you're saying?
My CTO, if you were building the ideal best search engine today, designing it, you design Presearch.
That's awesome. Now, to close out the interview today, this has been a great conversation. I'd like to have you on again. This has been awesome.
Happy to.
To close out the interview today, what do you see for both yourself as a CEO and Presearch over the next 6 months?
Well, over the next 6 months, really is scaling. We have a little bit more dev to do on the search side, but our number one priority, probably for the next 6 years, is to scale, right? We've got hundreds of thousands of searches a day. We need to get to millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions. And that's not even a lot really in the overall scheme of things, but it hasn't been our focus because we were building. We will continue to build. We'll build forever. We'll tweak the UI, UX, we'll improve. You can't stand still. But our goal is to really scale up searches and then scale up crawling the web. Scaling is what we're all about right now.
Okay, and for you as a CEO?
Make sure I'm sorry, there are times when it's a really complicated project to run. There have been times over the past 2 years it was crazy complicated. But we did a live stream this morning, and it was notable because in the past I had been talking 60, 75, 80% of the time. On the live stream today, we had the team on, most of the team on. I bet I didn't speak more than 10% of the time because I'm not needed to push this stuff forward. Everybody, we built a great team. Everybody's working forward.
The team understands it.
My only real job is making sure that we scale. And it's that simple. It really, really is.
That's awesome. Well, this has been the First Web3 Search Engine with Tim Enneking. Thank you for being here, brother.
Absolutely. Thank you. And as far as I know, we're the only Web3 search engine.
Right. All right, buddy. Have a good day. Thank you for being here.
Bye-bye.
I've been trading crypto. I've been trying to get more every time it dips low. I've been trading crypto. I've been trying to get more every time it dips low.